Hello, my name is Oscar Losa Jr., and today's presentation will be about narco culture's influence in the state of California. And here's some basic information about the United States and Mexico border. Since the mid-1980s, the border between the United States and Mexico has been the main route for drugs entering the United States, and it's estimated about 200 tons of cocaine have been imported in the United States from 1990 to 2008. And today it's a very prominent political issue because the United States still faces this major drug problem, especially with the new drug of fentanyl being prominent in the streets, causing havoc. And basically, narco culture, its influence, we're gonna break it down to 5 major categories: music, film, fashion, language, and religion. And music, there's 3 main genres. The first major genre would be narco corridos, which basically describes the stories of the lives of the narcos, the drug dealers, and it's usually a traditional banda norteño style, with some famous groups being Los Tigres del Norte or Los Tucanes de Tijuana. The second major genre would be Los Corridos Tumbados. It's a very newer version and it's a twist on the classic corridos, but it also incorporates elements of trap and hip hop, with some famous artists being Junior H and the very famous Peso Pluma. With the last category being corridos bélicos, warlike, very intense, with the famous group right now, local to California, Fuerza Regida. And then on the right it's a song called El Centenario by Los Tucanes de Tijuana. And if you read the lyrics, it's describing a man who, if they're poor, they treat you bad. If they're rich, they treat you well. So this man enters the mafia and because he didn't want to be poor anymore, he wanted to gain the wealth, he wanted to gain the power. And that's a major element of what these songs describe, describing the lives of people. They don't want to be poor no more, they enter the drug trade in order to gain the power, gain respect, gain the wealth. And the next slide just shows more examples of famous artists and some of their famous songs. I definitely recommend you give a listen to because the stories are very interesting to describe. Next up, we have movies and film, and here we are. Narco cinema is very popular and describes the battles and the lives of drug dealers against rival cartels, battles against the corrupt government, the highs and lows, and what it's like to be a drug dealer. And one interesting element about this is that it was free on public television, and in Los Angeles it would be Channel 22. But this is very important because, many people in poor communities, they don't have, the funds to go see the new movies every single week. They can't see the new Avengers, new Star Wars movies, but instead they stay home and watch these free movies about drug dealers and the cartel because, it's free on television. And it's very interesting how these movies became so popular because they're readily available to the general public. The next category would be fashion, and right now there's a little bit of separation between the old school and the new school. The new school is more like luxury brands, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Jordan, that kind of stuff. But the traditional style would be boots and cowboy hats, but not like any boots. It has to be ostrich, crocodile, exotic boots from Tony Lama, Lucchese, Stetson hats. We're talking top of the line Western wear. And the reason why it's Western wear because many of these drug dealers come from rural ranch communities. So eventually, when they got the money, they were able to spend the money on the top of the line Western wear and then incorporate some of these luxury brands and luxury vehicles later on. Next category we have is language, and language, the accent can vary based on the region in Mexico because obviously each state, like Sinaloa and Jalisco, have 2 very different accents, so that could vary. But what's universal is like the slang words, the terminology to describe the different drugs, the different people, the different roles, and this is very common in songs. Another song by Los Tucanes de Tijuana, Mis Tres Viejas, My 3 Ladies, uses the names of 3 ladies, Blanca, Maria, and Negra, to describe 3 different drugs, cocaine, marijuana, and heroin. And these types of metaphors were very common in film and songs. Next up, we have religion. Obviously, Mexico, and Mexicans are very religious people, and dominant religion is Catholicism. So therefore, this narco culture is like a combination of Catholic and indigenous beliefs. And the person on the left is a very famous figure called Jesus Malverde, also known as a narco saint. You may have seen him from TV shows like Breaking Bad, and he's known as the angel of the poor because he would steal from the rich and give to the poor, almost like this Robin Hood. And his nickname would be El Bandito Generoso, the generous bandit. And it's very interesting because people look up to him for protection in order to help him bring wealth to them. And I feel you can't really describe him as a narco saint, even though that's his main role. He's not as one-dimensional because he's very looked upon by like people from lower economic status. They look up to him a lot, and it's very interesting because many people find him more relatable compared to other Catholic saints because other saints are perfect and he's like a drug dealer. He's not perfect, so people find it easier to relate with him. And then other important figures would be La Santa Muerte, and it's very interesting because there could be shrines of La Santa Muerte, Jesus Malverde throughout California, and if you even wanted to, you could go to Santa Fe East Springs Swap Meet right now and go get a statue of Jesus Malverde if you wanted to. And basically, narco culture is a lifestyle. You have the wealth, you have the power, you're a rebel, have a sense of loyalty because loyalty is huge in the cartel, and it's ingrained into the culture because you've been hearing the music, the songs, the films ever since you were a little kid. And it's interesting, people describe going to like these nightclubs to feel like a narco for the night because people want to feel these things. And basically, the influence in California is very interesting because many of the musical groups that had previously started in California or lived in California for many years. Chalino Sanchez, he immigrated to the United States, but he spent a lot of time living in South Central LA, and he was very prominent in many of the clubs in South Central LA. He performed in many clubs, and it's interesting how these clubs would attract like these major, huge drug dealers into the communities when they would perform. And then other groups like Fuerza Regida, they're from California, and basically demonstrates, California's influence on the narco music scene as well. And in addition, many Mexican immigrants that are originally from Sinaloa, which is, the heart of the drug cartels. So, many immigrants may have family members who are a part of the cartel or have close association to it. In addition, the drug trade is huge in California, and it's unfortunate because many poor communities, the youth look to or begin working in the drug trade in order to find a way out of, the poor communities to find money for their families. And in summary, we could break it down into three major things. Narco culture is basically everywhere, from film to fashion to music, and it has a lot of history in California through many figures living here, the drug trade being prominent in California, and the popularity of narco culture is only growing in California. And then secondly, narco culture is a way of life. People trying to become drug dealers or try to act as drug dealers, they want to experience the power, the wealth, and being a rebel. And in some ways, you're a hero because you're facing like the corrupt government, the corrupt officials, and you're there, fighting for the little man. And it's interesting how narco culture, and the last point, narco culture is integrated into Mexican culture and religion because the style is very prominent, the film, the music, the fashion is all very popular, and the perception of what it means to be a narco may be different depending on the individual. And some people see a criminal, and some people say no, it's a way of life. And some people look at them as heroes because what they do for the communities, or as some people see them as evil. So it really depends on the individual. And then lastly, here are some interesting resources. Narco Cultura is a great documentary describing the drug trade and how the rise of, the narco corridos, especially because, there's lots of art here in California. And then some other articles such as History.com, the LA Times, great things. And also you can find all the songs on Spotify with the lyrics, which is great because you can listen to the song and play the lyrics. And then the Santa Fe Spring Swap Meet, it's just cool to walk around and see all the different, memorabilia of the different Narco Corrido artists, and also the statues of Jesus Marrede and La Santa Muerte. And this concludes my presentation, and thank you for listening.